Welcome. I am Dolla50. This is the 1000 Million Foundation. Feel free to click on the link in the description and make a donation. Welcome. I'm going to wait until my visitor arrives so that we'll have an actual audience. Now that the visitor has arrived, I can't see if it's the exact same person, but it appears to be a regular visitor. And I'm not going to, go out of context. I'm not going to go out of context of what the conversation is about this time. But notice the consistency. You can't just be consistent in a situation where inconsistency could mean anything. And take into account, I haven't taken the vaccine yet. I haven't been vaccinated yet. I said since I was in the house the majority of the time and I hadn't changed districts yet, then I won't really need the vaccine as much as people that's out and about in large crowds, and usually around a lot of people. So I said I'll just wait until my process is implemented into the process. That was mainly the reason my process hadn't been acknowledged as formal, and I didn't agree with the process that was put in place and how it was put in place, and it just seemed, it didn't seem reckless. It just seemed less consistent than my process. My process is on a website. It's actual information that doesn't move, and it's what it's supposed to be. If it's anything else, it would show up. That's how the link in the description shows up. When you click on the link in the description, you hit the play button, and the play button reads to you exactly what's there. It's a consistency present. It's no make believe or anything like that. So taking that into account, I had a disagreement with my situation here. I'm currently being treated by this jurisdiction as a result of a traffic stop. The traffic stop was your usual traffic stop. It didn't look any different from any usual traffic stop. But the traffic stop led to me being taken to a mental hospital, a psychological ward. I had to be psychologically evaluated in a traffic stop. So after being psychologically evaluated in a traffic stop for questionable reasons, I didn't do anything, swerve off the road or nothing. I didn't do anything. They just pulled me over and said, you okay? And started, saying I need to be evaluated, doing things like that to people. So I don't know who else went through anything similar, but this happened years ago. And as a direct result, I'm being treated by psychological people, and they don't have any reason to be treating me other than that traffic stop. I didn't have a history of mental illness. I never behaved strangely at work or anything like that you would say I was mentally ill. So when they grabbed me in traffic and said I was mentally ill and took me to a mental hospital, the doctor said there was nothing wrong with me. So this was what the police were doing, not what the hospital was doing. The name of the hospital was St. Mary's Hospital. Now it's Bon Secures. That's the name of the hospital now. The name of it is Bon Secures now, but it used to be St. Mary's Hospital. Now, this is Richmond, Virginia. As I explain my story, and say exactly what the locations are. You don't see the hospital, you don't see the doctor, you don't see any inconsistencies in the same place, leading you to believe that, there's some suspicious behavior going on in this town that I'm trying to get away from, because as I present my case, it appears to be more and more dangerous. Deadly in some extent, like as my information calculates. When you listen to my conversation, my conversation is stern. I have a stern way of explaining what I'm saying, and not without saying what's real, but in a stern way. And nobody wants nobody to be right all the time, is what I would conclude. Nobody would want you to be right all the time. So when you have a situation where you're in a small town and you're making these live broadcasts, and these broadcasts are right or correct or precise, nobody wants to see that much information be correct, precise, and right. Deadly. I'm just going to use my Germ-X. Mind you, this is a licensed hand sanitizer company, and the hospital's a licensed hospital. YouTube is a licensed business, and so on and so forth. When I transfer my information, it's based on information that's actually what it is. It's not me making up something that, like the hand sanitizer means Move-X, as opposed to Germ-X that's on the bottle. This says Germ-X right there. It says Germ-X, and it's a killer. So, saying that to say, being diagnosed with a mental illness in a traffic stop, it's going to fall apart. Their plan is going to fall apart, and what appears to be a plan to control people. I could imagine them doing that to other people, but in my case, after explaining my story repeatedly to different people, they continued on with the what appears to be some type of experiment. They continued on with the experiment, and with the shooting, with the child being burned, with the car crashes, and no prosecutions, no warnings. You got a probation in an attempted murder case. It was a probation given to the person that tried to murder me, but it just didn't match, as opposed to no sanction at all in the child burning. In the child burning, it was no sanction at all. And in the motorcycle crash, there was a sanction, but it wasn't it was like being at fault in a motorcycle crash. That's what the sanction was. It was the person's fault. They didn't give them no time or anything like that for attempted murder. It was just the person's fault in the motorcycle crash, and that was it. So when you're in a jurisdiction that does that and has you diagnosed as mentally ill while they're committing these crimes against you, we're at an impasse. Because as the government, the federal government learns of this, they don't do anything. So as the federal government learns of this and they don't do anything, I use everything I can to my benefit. Saying that to say, if I'm going to be treated for mental illness, then I'm going to use it to my advantage. If I'm mentally ill, I'm mentally ill. If I'm not mentally ill, then why are you treating me? And what are you treating me for? When I asked the doctor that I used to have, what were you treating me for? He changed from schizophrenia to bipolar disorder. So when I got out of that environment, moving to this neighborhood that I'm in now, there is no doctor. When I moved from the environment that I was in, now we don't have a doctor, and it's been going on for 3 years now. 3 years with no doctor. Believe it or not, it's just a crazy scenario concocted by the local government. 3 years with no doctor. I've been in this neighborhood for 3 years, and I haven't seen one doctor. So now, as I explain this, when the timing is right on a live broadcast, let me make a comment. I'm just going to make a comment so everybody can see the comment. So the timing is right now that I managed to make this live stream broadcast, I would say, and it hasn't been present the entire time. The entire time I've been in this situation, I haven't been able to say exactly what was going on in this jurisdiction. And when I express it, I need an attorney. I need, non-corrupt judges. I need, judgment to be rendered in a situation where they have power, they have authority, they have police, they have judges, they have they have everything under control. They have mental health, they have hospitals, they have courtrooms, they have police stations. They look real. Everything looks real. But when it comes to logical thinking, they do things like burn a 10-month-old child and the social worker doesn't show up. They do things like burn a 10-month-old child and the police don't show up. They do things like burn a 10-month-old child and the judge don't show up. They do things like shoot you with a gun and the person get a probation. Shoot you in the chest, inches away from your heart, get probation. They do things like run you over with a car and the person gets a ticket. When they do things like that, they don't have to answer to anybody. They just call it the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's the Commonwealth. This is where the Klan is primarily based. The KKK. This is where the Confederacy is primarily based. The Confederate Army. This is where the Civil War took place. The Civil War against the federal government. I don't know how intimidating I was at the time or up to date, but they appear to be intimidated by this form of government that was created to enforce slavery. This government has practiced slavery in the past, but they went to war with the federal government to fight for slavery as opposed to slavery being abolished. When slavery was abolished, it was based on a war breaking out and the disagreements of slavery being practiced was ultimately ruled against in a court of law that there couldn't be slavery. So what we have now is some type of mental health contraption hooked up to me. I don't know what they plan on doing once I go to a different district as opposed to what it appears to be. But these extremes mentally are challenging enough to have mental treatment. I wouldn't disagree. But what I would say is, if you have me diagnosed as schizophrenic, or if you have me diagnosed as bipolar, I appear to be who I am right now, might I add. If you have me diagnosed with any mental illness and there's no doctor for 3 years, then accountability is just, it's bound to happen. You're going to have to be accountable for your actions. And I just like to add, throughout this experience, maintaining safety has been primarily based on my consistency. This first aid box is usually in the property of the local government. In my possession, this is how I maintain a certain level of safety and security in this locality. I don't limit my decisions. Take your time. I don't limit my decisions to just making sure I'm safe. I make sure the locality's safe, where there's still no doctor. There's no doctor in this locality, in this neighborhood, but there's a doctor in the old neighborhood that I was in prior to being in this locality. So in my understanding, in my estimation, the doctor exhausted his authority as a doctor, and I was redirected here. This is my estimation. Because when I moved here, nobody complained about me not seeing a doctor. I didn't complain about it to the extent that I would usually ask, where's the doctor? And when I ask, where's the doctor, I get replies like, there's a nurse. The nurse is doing pretty good. And as qualified as this situation appears, up to date, you didn't know there was no doctor present. A ship with no captain. A police force with no chief. A country without a president. A hospital with no doctor. A courtroom with no judge. We're just going to handle the cases manually until we hire a judge. We're just going to handle the cases manually until we hire a doctor for 3 years. This went on for 3 years, and until now, I haven't said anything. And as intimidating as it has been, I went to court and told them that I didn't want to take any medications. I had the right to refuse medical treatment, which would be my right usually. In this jurisdiction, they tell you that you have a right to refuse your medication. You have a right to refuse treatment at any point. But when they tell you that, and what reactions you get when you refuse are two different things. You can read on the wall clearly. There's an amendment saying if you it's your right to refuse treatment. That's one of the amendments on the medical chart that used to be on the medical chart when I was in the old neighborhood. When I was in the old neighborhood is when I went to court and argued my case in court. And the mental representative that went to court with me at the time wasn't a doctor. When they argued it in court, they argued it with a regular staff member, not a nurse, not a doctor. A staff member went to court. When a staff member went to court, his name was Matthew Rich of Mental Health Department in the East End, Richmond, Virginia, Henrico. That's what they call the town that I was living in, the jurisdiction, Henrico, Virginia. Richmond, but Henrico. It's just a name that they call the town. So taking that into account, Matthew Rich went to court with me, took me to court, and my argument was I wanted to refuse treatment at the point where they were giving me injections at the time. They were giving me injections. Now I take tablets, but now that I'm not receiving injections, I take the tablets. These extremes that are transferring are well within reason of receiving some form of mental health treatment. But if somebody told you were mentally ill, didn't quite diagnose you ever, and wasn't based on nothing but a traffic stop, you would have to figure it out on your own, and when I'm figuring it out on my own, I'm being as clear and easy to understand as possible, because I'm not having injections now. Now I'm taking tablets, and the tablets are based on me taking them on my own, while injections were by force. Like you have to take this injection, you're mentally ill. Hey, take this injection. So now that the vaccine is an issue, it's not by force up to date. You're not forced to take the vaccine currently. So I haven't taken the vaccine, and that's not why I haven't taken it, but this accountability for this treatment and medical process, everything has to be accounted for. You're not showing up with no doctor, a doctor initially, and then no doctor for 3 years, and then giving injections, but still showing up with the tablets, a different medication. But saying that to say that the medication is Rexulti. That's the name of the medication I'm taking. It's a mental health medication, in my understanding, for bipolar disorder or something like that. It's not a potent form of Rexulti. It's a mild form, and I can read off to the label exactly what the dosage would be. The dosage, in my estimation, is a mild dosage, but I could be mistaken. I don't know how long they plan on giving me this medication. Rexulti, 4 milligrams. I don't know how long they plan on giving me this medication, but as it has to be accounted for, so you have some type of idea what CVS is doing in this small town. You could take a picture of this information, or, I don't know exactly. Well, it has an RX number. I'll let you take a picture of the RX number, or be able to replay it and prove it before a courtroom. Just exactly what this jurisdiction is administering without a doctor being present for 3 years straight. No injection, but a court-ordered level of treatment for mental illness based on being pulled over in a traffic stop and being declared mentally ill by a police officer. This is the practice they have in place. And when they have practices like this in place, all you can do is have your Germ-X, and as far as my Germ-X will allow, I'm going to sanitize my hands from touching that medication that could contaminate anything mathematically. With the vaccine process, with the entire medical scenario that's concocted by the government is certainly in question right now. In the minds of Americans, you have to be wondering, what are they doing in here? You have to be wondering. I'm not giving you a choice but to wonder, what are they doing in here? Because 3 years without a doctor is one thing. To administer medication for 3 years is another. To be in the neighborhood prior to being in this neighborhood, you'd have to conclude that once I went to court to argue being injected with whatever the medication was, I don't even remember what the medication was right off. But it was a challenging medication that gave me the jitters and things like that. Now I'm not jittering the same way I was in that other jurisdiction. It was a clear allergic reaction to what they were doing. Clear. It was no questionable situation where was it working or wasn't working. It was clearly an allergic reaction. Now there's no allergic reaction. The pandemic hit. I don't know if it's a direct result of what they're trying to implement. Initially, this is getting a little bit challenging to explain, but don't lose sight of, this being real medication, and they're administering this medication for 3 years with no doctor. You're not supposed to get treated without a legal professional present. You're not going to use a nurse to administer this medication for your mind, is my point. This medication is mathematically, a precise medication. It could be accurately the medication I need. The only reason I would say I need medication, in my estimation, you see my content is crazy. I'm itching, and when I'm itching, I know it's somebody on the other end. I got crazy content, but real. Resulted. So as real as the medication, as real as the accountability of the person on the other end listening to my broadcast. If you commit a crime against me, then my first reaction is to be, have you be accountable for your crime, whatever the crime is. I'm receiving medication. I'm in the process. I receive Social Security. I receive medication. I'm part of the process right here. My YouTube channel, I got 10 YouTube channels. I'm full force in the system. And people are asking, do you plan on being a YouTuber, or are you going to quit once you prove them wrong? I think I'm going to be a YouTuber. I can say what I want to say right now. I can say, F y'all, I think I like being a YouTuber. YouTube is like, they listen to what I'm saying now. When I refused that medication some years ago and went to court and argued it in court, and the doctor was, treating me at the time, but the accountability wasn't in the same place as the court session. The doctor wasn't subpoenaed to court, only the staff member was. So saying that to say, YouTubing is not that bad. But when I tried to get my channel card, I'm not dreaming. I want you to understand. When I went to Chicago Motor Cars to purchase that channel card, I'm not dreaming. My information consists enough to purchase a channel card, as I've shown you. I'm not dreaming by far. But let it be known. Need it be said. Where's my channel card? Chicago Motor Cars. Everybody look at Chicago Motor Cars for a moment. Put your attention on Chicago Motor Cars. Where's my channel card? Mentally. Here I am right here. I either have the money or I don't have the money. This is Dolla50. Terrence Lamont Collins, and I have the money. Where's my channel card? This is not going to move. Well, motivation. So when I said well motivation, it had anything to do with anything. It's just the channel card didn't show up before. In my mind, I thought well motivation. But the point I'm making is, you can expect a delay from a channel card that you're purchasing to be in place. The reason I'm bringing it up the reason I'm explaining it is because the person's accountability has to be present now. But saying that to say, purchasing the type of channel card I was purchasing, and in the process of changing districts, I wouldn't be able to bring that channel card to this district, and I wouldn't want to. And the fine tuning of the mental health issues that are present in this locality is what it is now. No judge has said anything. No doctor has said anything. Nobody has said anything currently. And I don't. Do I appear to be mentally ill? I'm not going like this. They trying to say something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me, y'all. I'm not doing anything like that. And when I said I was itching and things like that, it had a precision to it. It wasn't just like, jerky movements or anything like that. It was like, I'm scratching my nose, I'm moving my hat when I didn't plan on moving my hat, things like that. But it's nothing like, anything that you would conclude for somebody to be mentally ill, mentally challenged enough to say, we're going to give you medication for your mentally challenged state. When you got a situation like that, you have to fight it the best way you know how. Not the medication. You have to fight the situation that you're in. I'm forced to be in a situation because Nancy Pelosi can identify what I'm saying right now, but she's either part of the problem or too scared to say what the difference is. I don't. That's all I could say. I don't know who's going to make sense out of this situation, other than it not making this much sense. But this live broadcast is certainly complements the difference. I'm Dolla50 of the 1,000 Million Foundation. Click on the link in the description. Feel free to donate and break the cycle of this process going gravely wrong.